Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening, everyone. I'm the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, he who remains, the master of the deceptive arts, and I'm also known as the Phantom Menace, simultaneously the voice of the Vasectomites. And I come to you now from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time, reminding us about what happened yesterday when we had a discussion on various legal expressions that are prominent and ubiquitous in common human interaction. This is what has brought us to today's topic, right? Which is quite frankly going to be how to become a gentleman. And do you have the skill and the capacity and the fortitude to become a gentleman? Now, yesterday we primarily discussed a very particular, specific pattern in what the law actually prioritizes as legal and illegal social human interaction. Most of the laws were centered around violence and deception, either preventing violence or deception or giving consequences for violence or deception. And both are frowned upon and, quite frankly, are deemed illegal, specifically in contractual business type of situation, right? This I mean for deception. For violence, well, also for violence, I suppose. But most specifically for violence, I think the line was very clear to see and can be quite simple not to cross. All you need to do is just not hit people, not threaten people, right? Not approach people in a violent way. And we're going to discuss that when we look at the art of being a gentleman, right? Deception, on the other hand, is a little bit more difficult to digest. While deception is common in all human interactions, I mean all human interactions, it is easily identifiable, processed, and prosecuted if it involves illegal, commercial, or business-related issues and activities, right? So it's very easy to see where deception lies in financial issues, right? Suddenly money is missing. Or in legal issues when somebody breaks the law or does something untoward, right? It's very easy to deduce in those issues and activities. Effectively, you can't lie to someone to cost them financially or to cost them an opportunity. You also cannot misdirect people in order for you to gain a commercial advantage, an opportunity, or a financial benefit, right? So also you can't lie to get someone into a contract or to get a contract for them. So you can't lie to get to get them a lease, right? Or to get the bank to give them a credit card, that kind of thing, right? You can't do that, right? And you also cannot lie to get someone out of a contract, for whatever your reasons, right? Even if you're doing it for good reasons, right? So effectively, not minding your business is also, quite frankly, illegal, right? Uh, in simple, quite frankly, you can't lie at work, right? Because this is where these activities happen. Legal activities are considered, work is considered a legal activity, right? Commercial activity, that's work. Business related activities, that's all work, right? You cannot lie to people at work, you cannot lie about work, and you cannot lie about the people you work with, right? But outside of work and outside of your commercial or business or legal interests or your business opportunities, I suggest you lie to everyone about everything all the time, right? So you can easily tell people you're planning a vacation to Mars, right? And you may very well go ahead and plan that vacation if you choose to. But go, tell them, tell them all kinds of things. I'm renting a yacht for 5 days. Who cares, right? Socially, there's really no consequence, and there's really no difference between a dream, an ambition, and a lie. People say all the time that they're going to be CEO by 34. None of them are CEOs. None of them are CEOs. But if you go to work and say you're a 34-year-old CEO, that's a lie. But at home, you can tell them you want to be CEO by 34. And that would be considered a dream and ambition. So go ahead and lie to them socially. Don't hold back. Don't be shy about it. Don't get your values and your morals mixed up with your lies. Right? We're just talking about two different philosophies: morality, righteousness, truth. All of that. That's just one philosophy, and there are plenty of people who can teach you about how to conduct yourself in that philosophy and the values and of course the downsides of that philosophy. I am not one of those persons. I am the master of the deceptive arts, and I will teach you a completely different philosophy. Lie to them. Lie to them all, because they are all lying to you. You should embrace the spirit of paranoia and skepticism in all your social dealings, right? You need to do that. But at work, I suggest that you use your paranoia to keep your secrets a secret. All right? Keep your secrets secret. Don't open up and start sharing stories of all the times you stayed up at night, right? And all those times you traveled to that secret island to do whatever it is that you do on secret islands. That is not necessary, right? Don't tell people about the time you flew to Europe, right? Don't tell people about what happened when you were in Southeast Asia. Say nothing about that. Tell them about your work, your professional history, right? None of that is necessary in a professional environment, even if you're trying to be friendly, right? Even if you're trying to be friendly. I understand that what you don't want to be is you don't want to be closed up. You don't want to be avoidant, and you don't want to be unapproachable, right? So there is a fine balance that you must always uphold, right? And the way you uphold that fine balance, particularly in terms of legal limitations. So you can't be aggressive, you can't be threatening, you can't be violent, right? You can't be overtly deceptive. This neutralizes all of the advantages that either you have naturally or you would be taught practicing as a practitioner of the deceptive arts, right? So, so what do you do? How do you overcome this? You adopt the persona of a gentleman, right? You deliberately create of yourself what you can foresee as the archetype of what is a gentleman, right? So I'm speaking specifically here about work, right? And some selected social interactions. But in truth, while being a gentleman has its inherent values and it's a persona that you can adopt for almost every sort of circumstances, it does have its limitations, especially socially. Professionally, you can barely go wrong with this, right? It's rare where being a gentleman is not appreciated, right? But socially, this can this can have ups and downs, right? You really don't know what the outcome might be of being too much of a gentleman by being too professional, especially when you're dealing with knee benders and those pesky counterparts, right? Those people don't deserve none of your mercy, and you know I'm right, right? All of our problems come from knee benders and counterparts. So you know they don't deserve no mercy, right? However, at work, being a gentleman is an absolute must, right? Um, and benevolence is part of that. Patience is going to be part of that, right? Um, Based on what we have learned socially and legally, right? There is really no other better way to go about it, especially if you want to be successful in your current post or you intend on rising to a better post in the future, right? In both those circumstances, your behavior and etiquette is going to have to be exemplary, immaculate, even, right? So, so what you need in order to get this right is you need like an archetype. How some might say a role model, somewhere where you can say, when I think of a gentleman, I think of this, right? So I mentioned in the past that high society, aristocrats, even royalty to some extent is not really a good example of what you might want to consider a gentleman, right? Not at all, right? These are not really the people that you want to follow, right? Even certain, movies and visual depictions of what they considered a gentleman, even certain novelizations, they would depict gentlemen in certain ways. But I want you to ignore those super spy kind of situations. I want you to completely ignore those, right? The problem is that if you follow those and you act like an aristocrat, and you are not inherently wealthy, or you act like royalty, but you're not born of nobility, right? Or you act like you're a member of higher society, but you haven't really achieved that status, right? Which most of us have not, right? It can come off as egotistical, as entitled, and quite frankly pretentious, right? It can come off as completely unsustainable, right? So that can prove to be, especially if you are a person who is on the rise, that can prove to be quite problematic, right? And it can turn off the people whom, quite frankly, you want to impress with your best possible behavior. It can repel them, right? And you don't want to do that. The example you want to follow is that of the people that serve the aristocrats, the people that serve the high society and the nobility, right? You want to be like a high class butler at work. That's really what you want to be, right? And that's why we have the image here on the screen of a man, and I just noticed there's a line going through that. Apologies for that line. But there's a man here who is, quite frankly, dressed in his best attire, ready to serve, right? He's ready to serve, and he's ready to provide his best service, right? This is what you need to be on a daily basis, right? You need to come in prepared, ready, all your tools, all your items, everything that you need to work with already there, right? You need to think of yourself as a person who is entrusted to care for and serve high nobility, right? Members of high class, royalty, the best, most serious, most prominent people in the world who need to make the best first impression every time they make a first impression, right? And you are going to be representative of that, right? So that's how you need to see yourself, right? This is in particular when it comes to the type of tasks and the range of activities and the volume of participation, as well as the effectiveness in your execution, right? So you need to be open to doing almost any type of tasks upon any range of activities, from highly difficult to completely easy, right? From menial to great. In other words, right? You need to be able to do these in any volume that is necessary. So if there's a lot of work to do, then you get on with that work, right? And you need to be effective. You need to be deliberate. You need to get the job done quickly, 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 and then move on to the next task. But you need to do that job right every time, right? And you need to really embrace this across a multitude and a range of activities, right? But while you ponder that statement, let me pose a question for you. If you were the CEO of a multinational billion-dollar global conglomerate and corporation, right? Would you willingly clean a public toilet? Now, realistically, the answer would be no, right? But let me pose another question on top of that. Would you know how? Would you, right now, as one of the most prominent men in the world, would you have the capacity and the skill set to be able to clean said toilet effectively in a way that it would be impressive as your position in life? So you clean that public toilet in such a way that people walk in there and they say, "Oh my God, a CEO must have done this job. This is so brilliant that nobody other than a CEO could have done this job." Do you have that skill, that capacity? Can you achieve that level of excellence in a menial job? This is the question that I want you to ponder as we proceed, right? It's one thing not being able to do something menial, right? It's one thing not wanting to, I beg your pardon, to do something menial. It's something to not be willing to do something, to say, I'm not interested in that. But it's another to be completely unable and incompetent in doing that task, right? It's an indication of a certain type of failure. Now, imagine the skill set for a butler, on the other hand. A butler would clean that toilet to a five-star hotel level of quality. Not only that, he would serve the people who come in to use that toilet, right? And not only that, help them as they wash and dry their hands and leave that toilet, right? He would be immaculate. This is what we call, like, if they say just clean the toilet, it's not sufficient to just clean the toilet. You have to clean that toilet better than that toilet's ever been cleaned, and then wait for the customer to come in and be able to appreciate your high level skill. And then as they wash their hands, you're standing there, as you see in the picture there today, you're standing there ready to serve with a towel in your hand should they need it to dry their hands, right? A butler can not only clean that toilet in that hotel, he can check in the guests, he can help them settle in the room, he can help process their payments, as well as balance the books for that very hotel that he's working in. And he can do all of that perfectly. This is what you need to be at work. You need to be the guy for whom the 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 range of professional and helpful and useful skills that you have, right, must be of that quality, right? And you must also understand that to get those professional skills, to be that helpful, to be that useful, takes a butler many years of education, training, and skills development, right? Endless years of training, development, and education, training, and skills development. And even after that, the formal training, they still continue to upgrade and update their skills to be more effective, right? I'm not talking about things like literary skills, things like reading or working in a computer or typing document. I'm talking about being able to help people with things that need human hands, right? The things that need labor, right? Things that must be acted in or acted on, right? And your skills, your skill sets need to be equal to that level of education, training, and skills development, right? They need to be professional. They need to be pristine, right? And your skill sets need to be growing on an ongoing basis, right? Until you reach mastery, right? As is true with your deceptive arts. They need to improve in capacity and in scope, as well as in effectiveness and hopefully reward, until you have reached the level of mastery. This can take time, but at least you would be thinking in the right way and heading in the right direction, right? What you want to adopt most, other than those skills, is the attitude that a butler does his work, right? The results that they achieve from great or menial tasks are always immaculate. They are always exemplary, right? So just as I described how a butler would clean a toilet and then serve the users of that toilet as they come in. You know, you also need to be immaculate. You have to be exemplary, right, in your work and in your results, but also in your attitude. So you can't be aggressive, you can't be threatening, you can't be moody and pouty, especially not at work where you earn money, right? So just think about how a butler can do everything from cleaning toilets to laying out clothes to balancing the family budget, and doing all of that with class, with dignity, with respect, and in a respectful way, right? There is even a hint of gratitude in that respect that they give you, right? So it's not just a formal type of respect. It's there's a gladfulness, that you are giving them the opportunity to serve you and thereby demonstrate their skills, right? They are happy to do it for you, right? And they take a personal pride in being able to achieve those results on your behalf, right? And that's really what it comes down to. It's about a demonstration of immense abilities minus the braggadocious nature of that usually accompanies skilled and accomplished people, right? So there is a pride, but that pride comes from maintaining the humility of a monk, right? It comes from demonstrating, right, that humility in an exemplary way to others, as if to say, you aren't being humbled in the right way, and I would be humbled if you would allow me to show you how to be humble, right? And then we can be humble together. And then thereby making them more likable, right? Less threatening, right? Effective, immaculate in their results, right? But humble, gracious in their success and their victories, right? In a way that is demonstrative and exemplary to others, right? To the extent that even if you fire a butler, right, he will be humble and exemplary and still gracious and respectful and dignified even in loss, right? Even in the face of tremendous loss, they still maintain their dignity, their respect for themselves, and their respectfulness for the person that's literally firing them. This is class, right? Maintaining dignity through difficulty, strife, right? And challenges, right? This is how you define class. And the more difficult the strife, the more you want to maintain that dignity, right? But this doesn't imply that you need to take losses easily and willingly, right? Vengeance is just as much a powerful tool as is deception, and a powerful motivator as is ego. And perhaps another time we will talk about the benefits of vengeance and the relief, the mental and emotional relief that you get from getting one back. But even then, we must do it in a dignified, classy, and respectful way, at least respectful to ourselves and the station that we try to hold in this existence. But even as a butler is being fired, right? He will be exemplary in his departure, starting by apologizing for his misgivings, right? But also being grateful for the opportunity and then hoping to see his former employer under better circumstances in the future. Now, in some situations, this is possible. Where the situation does not allow this, better to say nothing and just walk away, right? But in a situation that does allow you to demonstrate, um, you know, your level of humility, right? Demonstrable humility, you need to go ahead and do that and then leave with your head held high, right? Having done an exemplary job, having done an immaculate job as best as you could, right? That is the example that you need to have for your own work. The attitude of a butler, not the attitude of an aristocrat, right? Um, there is a circumstance where socially this might prove disastrous, right? Where people might be testing your resolve, and you respond as a butler, and they may deem that yeah, you respond as a butler. In other words, with humility and dignity, and they may deem that as a weakness, right? There are places and societies in the world where being gentle in this way can be deemed, quite frankly, as a weakness, right? In those societies, we can either stay away or act likewise. It's really just a matter of understanding the philosophy of the place, right? Um, but at work, you need to adopt the attitude of a butler, right? You really need to you need to treat everyone as though you are serving them and they are the aristocrat, not you, right? So let no job be too big and no work be too small, right? Be respectful, be thoughtful, be courteous, be helpful, and above all, be productive with immaculate results. And if you have to lie to achieve this, go ahead and lie, right? If you have to come in there and fake it for 90 days in a row, fake it. Make it the best faking that you've ever done. Look, if you're going to put on a mask every day, the least you can do is give us a great performance. I'm not asking you to take off your mask. I'm just saying, put on a great performance as you wear that mask, right? Get your results, get your immaculate results, achieve your objectives, right? But while you do this, never seek praise overtly, right? So just let the work speak for itself, right? If the results are good, they will show. If the results are great, they will show. If you've made a mistake, it will show also, right? But never seek praise for any success. Don't ask for any extra attention or any recognition, right? Sun Tzu says, and I paraphrase, advance without seeking fame, retreat without feeling shame, right? I'm paraphrasing that. This is how you keep your army together and safe, right? So don't go seeking any attention and any recognition. The money you earn is sufficient, right? The money you earn is sufficient, right? No matter how big the task is, no matter how difficult the task is, or how time consuming it is, what you want to be obsessed with is the completion and the results, right? This is the attitude. And this attitude is what we will see displayed today in our edification, right? We will see, quite frankly, if you have what it takes to be a butler, thereby transforming yourself into a true gentleman, right? Mastering these skills and this persona is the key to mastering the deceptive arts. It well and truly is, right? You notice how butlers are always in and out of the room, having access to almost everything, right? This is how they do it. Because they are helpful in so many areas and aspects, they are given access to everything. And the more access you want, the more helpful you have to be, right? The more access you want to documents, the more editing you have to do, right? This is how it will help you to omit also and misdirect people from your misdeeds. When people see that you are always working or perceived to be always working or perceived to be always helpful, it shifts attention away from your misdeeds by promoting your best attributes. This isn't to imply that people are not suspicious of you and that you shouldn't be suspicious of them. It implies that you do not wear your bad habits on your face, right? We all have them. We all have them, but you don't have to promote them, right, at work. You can keep them completely away and in your private sphere and keep that private sphere as far away as possible from your work, and thereby you'll be able to gain financially over a long period of time, and this will aid you in your self-sustaining bachelor life, right? In your self-preservation and the preservation of your bachelor life. Let's do it. This article is entitled "Could You Be a Butler?" It was posted by, it says, Sam Bilton, published 17th of April 2017, almost 10 years ago, but still helpful. It is from the website www.englishheritage, english-heritage.org.uk. And Sam Bilton writes, butlers were key members of Victorian households, often dedicating their lives to the service of their master. Do you think you're up to the task of leading a Victorian staff? Here are some things you should know before you undertake the role. So, the history of the butler goes back almost 500 years and more, right, to the Victorian household. Of course, we're talking about, again, aristocrats and high members of society who want you to represent what is the best of themselves, right? So, what do they want you to be? First, they want you to be smart and polite, no threatening language, right? We saw it in the law yesterday. You can't go around threatening people. You can't go around screaming, shouting, using profanity, words that are unsound. Not only is this bad manners and poor etiquette, it's a strategic mistake. It makes people want to attack you, right? When you are like that, you make yourself a target. This is why people like that are always in conflict, right? Because you make people want to attack you. Now, people want to attack you anyway, but this way is so much faster, right? When you're braggadocious and all kinds of things, it is a much faster way of getting people to attack you and making enemies, right? It says, a successful butler will have a dignified and modest disposition with an eye for perfection, right? Get those results. You should always be smartly turned out, although often it is advisable to wear slightly mismatched trousers and coat to avoid being mistaken for a gentleman. So what they call here a gentleman is an aristocrat, right? So they took the title of gentleman, the aristocrats in high society. They took the title of gentleman without having any of the activities, right? So while they do serve people, they serve in a very limited capacity. I'm not saying that high society doesn't serve the society that they govern, but it's in a completely different capacity. The butler is on a more hands-on, face-to-face kind of way. You deal with them as a person, right? This is what I mean. So one of the things is that you have to dress appropriately, right? You have to dress not just equal the best part that is equal to your station, but you have to wear the clothes that make you identifiable as the thing that you are. So if you're a lawyer, you got to dress like a lawyer, right? So that you can be effective in your job and not be mistaken for a plumber. You understand? So that's what he's talking about here. You have to wear the right costume. In other words, if you're going to be deceptive, you got to put on that right costume, right? Imagine seeing a superhero who doesn't have the superhero outfit on. How are you going to know he's a superhero? Imagine you see a policeman that doesn't have a police uniform. How are you going to know he's a policeman? Imagine a doctor who doesn't have that coat and the stethoscope around his neck. How are you going to know he's a doctor? So you got to play the part. You got to wear that right outfit every time. If the master keeps no valet, you will have to lay out his clothes for him in the morning. Right. So he goes as far as to picking the outfit for his employer that will make his employer look good, right? So what you do is you don't make this about you, you make it about the people that you're serving, right? You thereby you remove the eyes from you and you put it all on them, right? You keep them omitted from you, right? You go that far. He goes further. He goes further in his in how he serves people, right? But he goes as far as to make things not just convenient but intuitive. So as you move through the experience, right, he's making your movement part of the experience, right? So you really don't feel any of the strain that comes with difficult challenges because he takes up that difficult challenge. Let's keep it going. The perk of this job is that you are entitled to your master's old clothes. I don't know so much about that. You will always be addressed by your surname by all members of the family, no matter what their age. The staff will use Mr. before your surname. So, very important thing. Address people respectfully, right? Address people respectfully, even if you've become familiar with them, right? That's even more reason for you to address them respectfully. Because what happens is when people become familiar, they start to become more friendly and more casual, right? The longer you know people, you want to give them the impression that your respect is growing for them, right? So you don't just call them Mr. Such and Such. You also introduce them to other people as Mr. Such and Such, thereby making them look good. Remember, this is at work. I'm not talking out there in the wilderness and in the romance wars. In the romance wars, I could care less what you call your friends, what silly nicknames you guys come up with for each other. I could care less. But in the professional environment, right? Especially if people address you formally, you always want to address them formally, right? Even if you speak casually, even if you have casual lingo, but when you speak to them or about them, even if you're speaking to them like in the third person, to somebody else and you're speaking about them and they're not there, you want to still refer them as Mr. Such and Such. Mr. the Ancient One said, I should be lying to you. Oh, but can we really trust Mr. the Ancient One? You see how that works? Every time you just make it part of your normal dialogue, right? Mr. Such and Such, Mrs. Such and Such, with every person that you speak about at work, right? That way, you never take the risk of insulting anybody or demeaning anybody's post and station that they've worked many years to achieve, right? So think about it like this: if you don't respect the man or the woman, you have to respect their position, right? You have to respect their position and how long it took for them to get there. So you call them Mr., Mrs., or Miss, or Doctor, or Professor, whatever their said designation is, right? Whatever their salutation is, you have to use that, right? And they may do the same for you. The butler's life is a solitary one. Indeed, this is one thing that the bachelors and the butlers share. And professionally, for you to be as effective as what we are describing, you're really going to need to be working extra extra time, right? So overtime is the time that you work at work, but after the hours. So when you are at work, but you're still on the clock, you're still getting paid. Then we got extra time, which is what you do at work. The preparations, the training, the skills that you need to make you effective in your work, right? This requires very much a solitary life. For us bachelors, not really a big problem, right? It says here employers generally prefer their butler to be single. Um, it is felt that butlers with wives can be torn between their loyalties towards their families and their master. So your master is the money, right? Your money is your master. You need to humble yourself to the almighty dollar, right? To the all powerful pound, right? To the enduring yen, right? You need to humble yourself to the benevolent Thai baht, right? You need to humble yourself to every currency that you can, and you need to get that money and bank it, right? So you cannot have your loyalties torn, especially at work, right? Out there in the romance wars, anything can happen. But here at work, you need to be sure that the people who are paying you are happy to pay you, right? That's the key. They have to be happy to pay you. A butler without a family, without any family commitments, I beg your pardon, of his own, is therefore able to devote himself entirely to the needs of the family he serves. If a butler lies about being married, he can be dismissed without notice. This is true of the bachelor life too, right? The only thing that can destroy your bachelorhood, quite frankly, is getting married. And if you don't get married, you got nothing else to worry about except those goddamn kids. And you're going to need a vasectomy. That, there's no option, right? But yeah, you get married, you out. You out. I agree with this 100%. It is also essential not to become too friendly with the other servants in your household in order to maintain an air of authority. Authority can be problematic, right? When you want to have an air of authority over people, they can rebel against that authority. What you want to do is you want to, when you're leading people, you want to when you're leading people, you want to have a standard of excellence that everyone must achieve. One standard. So, this is what time we start, this is what we wear, this is what we do. Everyone must achieve that standard. Secondly, you want to treat people with humanity, and humanity is riddled with problems, right? But also, you do want to maintain your methods and your discipline, right? So even in dishing out punishments, you have to you have to show some humanity, right? So this is why they give you a verbal warning first, then a written warning, then a final written warning. Then you have to meet with HR, and only about after 5 or 6 offenses they fire you because they're treating you with humanity. Otherwise, they just fire you on the spot, right? So when you are in a position of authority, your job is not so much to wield power aggressively, but rather to use control, right? To mitigate problems and to achieve results. And you do that, quite frankly, by maintaining a standard, right? When people know where the standard is, the standard then maintains itself. You don't have to come in and micromanage and be sitting on people's necks. People don't like that, right? But if they feel that they're maintaining the standard and you'd want to raise that standard, you need to indicate that rise overall, right? And you need to deliver that information with humanity, right? It could be hard to give empathy, right? It could be hard to give empathy and equality, but you can treat everyone like a person, right? You can absolutely do that. And quite frankly, in leadership, you have no choice, right? People don't like you coming down on them. The same way that you don't like, you know, when your superior comes down on you, even though he's got to, even though you know he's got to, you still don't like it. He knows you don't like it, but he has to do it to maintain standards, right? But you can do it in a meaningful way, right? You can do it in a way to say, this is very unfortunate, but it is these types of reviews, this type of information is helpful to help employees progress and improve. Especially if you're looking to get like a promotion or something, or to move to a better department in the future, right? A good record here will help you there. You really want to persuade people like that, but also encourage them to maintain that standard, because you're also going to be held up to that standard. And yeah, you don't want to be found to be lacking. Leading others by example. This can be quite tricky to do, right? But effectively, what it means is do as I do, right? This is what it means to lead people as by example, right? You don't demonstrate, you do it with them. We are all going into this war together. We are all getting this vasectomy together. I got my vasectomy. I'm leading you through the steps so that you can have the confidence, the information, the peace of mind when you go and do it. We are doing this together, right? We are discussing this together every day, right? Do as I do. That's what leading others by example means. It's not telling them what to do when you haven't done it yourself and you are not doing it every day, right? You have to be, if you're promoting that vasectomy, you gotta promote that vasectomy, right? You gotta promote that vasectomy, and you have to be seen doing it, right? Do as I do. This is the butler's way, and I agree with all this information. So, in I don't want my employees or people that I'm managing to outdo me. You're not doing more work than me at work. Absolutely not. Right? I would happily do my share of the work and then your share of the work just to outdo you. Right? So you have to do as I do. I am the standard, by the way. When I say you have to maintain the standard, I am that standard. So you have to do as I do. This is leadership, right? That's leadership. We walk the path together. You follow me. Left foot, right foot. That's leadership. Telling people what to do and not doing it yourself, that's hypocrisy. Right? That's hypocrisy, and that's what people call management. That's not really management. Right? Management is maintaining standards. Right? Leadership is going first and everybody follows you to do what you do. Let's continue. There are many and good, useful servants who are only fit to be led but not lead themselves. The Footman's Directory and Butler's Remembrance by Thomas Cosnet. Simpkin and Marshall, London, 1825. So, we are going all the way back in time. In the majority of households, the butler is the most senior servant. This means you will be delegating duties to the servants beneath you, such as the footman. You will also be responsible for the conduct and behavior of these servants. You need to know what the footman does inherently, instinctively, and by experience in order for you to be able to lead the footman in the way that you want things to be done. So you need to understand that if he's using a different technique to achieve the goal, it's fine. Or if he's using a technique that's going to cause calamity in the future, it's not fine. Right? So you need to know what people are doing in every level. You need to understand every level of skill in your organization to be able to be effective. You need to clean those toilets, my friend. You really need to get comfortable with cleaning toilets. And also, you are responsible for the conduct and behavior and etiquette of the servants, right? So, indeed, if you behave poorly, if you speak poorly, if you're using poor vocabulary and diction and poor choice of words, if you're using vulgarity, every vasectomite that comes after you, that listens to you, is going to use the same type of profanity and that type of language, right? If you're speaking a certain way, all your followers will do the same thing, right? And if you're insulting people, they will insult people too and get themselves caught and sent to jail, right? So don't go insulting anyone, right? Maintain, be deceptive, be deceptive, right? You and I know that you were not this way before. I was not this way before. I was not this way before. I trained, I practiced, but I got to the point where I embraced it fully and realized that there was no point in being a gentleman half the time and a gentleman the other half of the time because I keep forgetting which time is which. And sometimes the mood of one side will affect the mood on another side. Better to just maintain one standard of quality, even when I'm being upset, even when I'm being belligerent. I try never to cross a certain line. Right? I try never to cross a certain line, and every time I cross that line, I get banned. Right? Let's continue. You must ensure that everything is done in an orderly manner and at the correct time. So you have to be systematic, you have to be organized, you have to be prepared. As the Grandmaster of the Deceptive Arts says, you have to be prepared. This is an immaculate article. All right, let's continue. Instructions from the master or the mistress. See how he's using the formal language, even in the article. He's giving them the respect due to their position, right? You cannot help but respect the writer for being respectful. It's reciprocal. We give him respect because he gives respect. That's how it really works, right? From the master to the mistress of the house should be passed on to the staff in a polite and respectful manner. Use humanity, right, as your basic standard, and it should be clear that these requests are coming from above and not from you. Apply the tactic of humanity to everyone: security, taxi drivers, restaurateurs, business people, entrepreneurs, all kinds of people, right? Everybody. People don't always expect that you'll like them, you'll be kind to them, but you can treat them with humanity, even as you disagree, right? When dealing with servants, when dealing with servants, a domineering manner is thought to show ignorance, ill breeding, and a weak mind. A firm but fair approach is always required, right? So, this is what happens when you are domineering, when you are domineering, right. Over dominant. Over dominant is really what I'm trying to say, and it's right in front of me. When you are over dominant, right, it can show really a lack of confidence, right? When you are too much over the top, it can show a level of pretentiousness, right? But here he uses ill breeding and a weak mind. Over time, it does demonstrate a weak mind. It means that you don't get to the point where you know you've made your point and people get it and you can't move on. So you gotta keep. Just to conclude my thoughts from the last slide, you do want to treat people. If you cannot treat them with absolute respect, you want to treat them with humanity, so you can avoid them attacking you. Our next issue is that of the daily routine. Now, remember, you're going to be doing this on a daily basis. So you do want to have all your moves prepared, but also you want to make it a routine, right? So that and you want to be systematic in your routine so that you don't miss any steps, right? You don't stumble upon your own deception. It says the butler oversees the arrangement of the table and the service for each meal. Although you may not be required to serve the food yourself if there are sufficient footmen. So effectively, you have to be up early to make sure that when people are ready to eat, they're ready. So you have to get their breakfast ready, get their clothes ready, get their meals ready, get everything that they need to be successful throughout the day, and then be ready for whatever else they need throughout the day in order to be successful. And when they don't need you, or they don't want other people to do something, you need to be somewhere else busy with something else that will be helpful to that person later, right? You need to really treat your customers like aristocracy, right? After breakfast, you can return to your pantry to finish your morning chores. These may include ironing the newspapers for the master and polishing the silver. Now, this is how far he goes, right? He's not just laying out the clothes, preparing the breakfast, getting the table set, doing the dishes after, getting the next meal. After that, he's gonna go ahead and iron the newspaper so when you read it, it's crisp. Just think about that. He's going to make sure you get a crisp newspaper that he's just ironed. And you'll be eating out of silverware that, quite frankly, he's just polished, right? You will be responsible for ensuring these valuable items are kept safe as well as clean, right? So he's not just protecting these things, he's not just serving with them, he's not just providing them and cleaning them, he's also protecting them and keeping them safe. So he's not just serving you and helping you use them. When you're done using them, he then cleans them, protects them, keeps them safe so that when you need them next time, he's ready to go. This is the level. This is what a gentleman really is. Truly, truly, this is what a gentleman really is, right? It's a very high standard to maintain, and not many people can reach that standard. It's frustrating, right, to be this type of attentive person. When the counterpart says they want someone to love and care for them unconditionally, they're talking about this behavior. They want you to iron their newspapers, but they're not royalty or high society, so no newspaper ironed for you. If your mistress decides to go out for lunch, you may also go for a walk. However, should she be at home for the afternoon, you should be on hand to answer the door to any visitors, right? So He's ready not just to be a servant, but also a companion. You want to go for a walk, he will be there to accompany you, right? And when you return and you go for a rest, he will then continue to welcome any visitors, should there be any, at the door, right? He's ready to do more. He's always thinking about what more can he do. Sounds like a perfect man, right? These will fall into two categories, right? These are the visitors now: the gentlefolk and persons, right? So notice how he doesn't dehumanize anyone, right? Never a dehumanizing word. All the words here are there to uplift humanity, uplift the spirit, right? To uplift people. Gentlefolk, he continues, should be led straight to the drawing room, and persons such as tradesmen are asked to wait in the hall or elsewhere. So he's organized. This is a very organized system, right? He knows that these type of people are expecting to deal with this type of function in this area, so I will send them where they will be most effective. It's really got nothing to do with status and class. He really knows where people will be the most effective in the home, and he sends them there. Right. So if he knows that you're going to end up being effective, where he says in the drawing room, that's where he'll send you. But if he knows you're going to be needed in the hall or elsewhere, that's where you will be designated, right, with dignity. Right? The butler should have a plan for dealing with visitors. You should also have a plan for dealing with visitors. For whatever reason, the master or mistress does not wish to see. Yeah, you need a plan for when you're not. So when you're occupied, when you're busy, right? Or when you're not well, you need a reason for that, right? But otherwise, you should always be available. On no account say that the master or mistress is not at home when they are. Rather say they are engaged and ask the visitor to call again at another time. This is pure deception, right? This is pure deception. So you know I'm at home, and you know I just came back from a walk. I'm tired, right? I'm old, I'm tired, but you came to visit. So the butler has to now say, "Oh, so sorry. They really just started a meeting with their accountant. They could be in there for 3 or 4 hours. Um, Instead of just waiting and wasting your time, can I suggest coming back tomorrow at another time? I will get the master or the mistress to call you and rearrange a more appropriate time for you. Don't just tell them to get out, you're busy, right? This is the extent to which you have to be a butler and deceptive, right? You have to be absolutely deceptive, but skillfully deceptive. Skillfully deceptive, right? Let's continue. It says here, the butler always announces when dinner is ready and serves the wine during the meal. He also serves teacups and saucers after dinner, although the housekeeper oversees the making of the tea. So he's ready for the next step, right? He knows what comes next. Dinner is next. After the walk, it's dinner. You have dinner. They have their drinks, their beverages while they eat. He will keep their cups full. And then there will be tea and other things. So he may or may not make the tea, right? So unfortunately, you can't be in two places at once. So you can't effectively serve tea and, I mean, you can make the tea and then serve it after. But if you are serving drinks and serving dinner, you may not be able to make the tea. So you need to be prepared for that, right? You need to have a mechanism. If somebody else isn't making the tea, then you need to have it ready already, right? You need to have you need to have a system, and a way to accomplish that. You need to have a plan. You need to be prepared, right? You need to anticipate these problems and resolve them. The final task of a butler's day, I beg your pardon, is to ensure that the house is secure and all the lamps extinguished. He who remains, He who remains. This is really where it's about. This is really why I like the title of He Who Remains. Right? When the work is finished, you are still there, right? When the dinner has been eaten, the coffee and the tea has been drunk, the dessert has been had, the dishes have been washed, everything has been cleaned up and packed away and secured, and there you are, turning off the lights and locking the front door, making sure that everything is safe and secure, and still doing one last final check, and then going to prepare for tomorrow, right? Because you're getting ready. Keep the cellar in order. These sort of go together with being deliberate, with being organized, with being hardworking, with being enduring. You're not going to pull all these off and have a wife too. You really, there's just not enough time to be immaculate and have a wife and kids at the same time. Uh, Keep the cellar in order is the next one, right? The office of the butler is as ancient as it is responsible. The duties of servants, this comes from the duties of servants, a practical guide to the routine of domestic service by a member of the aristocracy. It continues. Butlers are responsible for keeping track of the contents of the cellar. The term butler is derived from buttery, a room used in medieval times to store barrels of butts of wine and ale. In some large country houses, the butler would be responsible for brewing beer for the household, although this seldom makes it to the master's table as it is often of low quality. So I'm not gonna go into too much of the history here, but effectively, the butler is responsible for keeping track with not just the contents of the cellar, but also the contents of the home, right? So you have to make sure that there's enough fruits and vegetables, there's enough meat, there's enough ingredients to make the things that you need to make. But here we have a situation where the butler is now brewing beer for their master. He's going as far as to brew beer for the master because he knows the master likes beer. So this is in ancient times, of course, right? So he would be brewing beer for the master, and if the beer was of a low quality, he wouldn't let the master have it, right? He would only allow the master to have the best possible product. This is what it is. So if you're having like an inferior product, you may decide to withhold that product for a better product. This is really what we're talking about, right? Omitting what is bad and only presenting what is quality and what is good. It continues. As a butler, you will need to record what wine has been given out and drunk each day in the cellar book. So you need to be a person for the details. Remember how I mentioned how a butler can easily clean your bathroom to the quality of a five-star hotel, as well as maintain the budget for the home with the same high quality, right? Now he's keeping track of the stock, what is coming in, what is going out, what is there, and what still remains. Trusting masters will allow you to keep the key to the cellar, although others will insist on keeping to it for themselves to avoid temptation. Drunkenness is definitely frowned upon. Yes, so again, the problem of alcohol. Again, I mean, as a person who doesn't really struggle with alcohol at all, this doesn't really affect my work, right? So I'm not coming to work hungover or disoriented or uncomfortable, any like that. I'm really pretty much the same person every day, right? Because of this, right? Because I don't have those tremendous ups and those tragic lows. But if you do decide that you want to drink and party and such, again we're living a 90-day cycle. So you've got 90 days of work and you've got 2 weeks with which to do whatever you want. So in that 2 week break of your 90-day cycle, I mean, it wouldn't bother me at all if you were wasted every day. It wouldn't bother me at all. What I'm really concerned about is the condition that you're in when you arrive at work. You really need to be in a great condition at work, right? And you can't be in a situation where in the morning you're good but all night long you're not alright. So you need to be consistently good at work, right? And then you need to have a situation where people at work never see you in another condition, right? So they never see you inebriated or in a way that will force them to lose respect for you under any circumstances, right? The butler is responsible for decanting the wine before dinner. Some wines may be found to be sick or on the fret or suffering from too much intumescence. Foul claret or claret can be reclaimed by putting a dozen apples into the cask. Malt spirits can be improved by adding charcoal powder. I had no idea this was possible. I didn't know this was at all possible. But this is obviously a person who is skilled in the art of brewery and in maintaining his drinks, so he would know this. But this is not an indication that you should drink. It's really an indication of the amount of details that butlers are aware of in terms of pleasing the people that they are serving, right? Remember, and I'll say this before I forget, cats and dogs and mice and tigers, they don't have no money. Trees and flowers and the grass and the suns and the moon, they don't have no money. It's people that got money. And if you want money, you're going to need to serve people in a way, quite frankly, that makes them want to pay you. Just consider that. Like there's no money that comes from the fish and the dolphins, right? And the whales. All the money comes from people. So if you want money, you have to be willing to serve people. And you have to be willing to look into those details, right? And make sure you get those details right. It concludes, if wine requires refining, a butler may use eggs, isinglass, I don't know what isinglass is, gum arabic, I don't know what that is, and gelatine. I don't know why this information is helpful, but it's here anyway. It concludes, you may also need to be wary of adulteration by unscrupulous suppliers of household drinks. Oyster shells, sulfur, and cream of tartar can be used to detect lead and copper in a bottle. A pea-sized piece of chalk can detect aqua forte, an old term for nitric acid. I think aquafortis is Latin. I need to brush up on my Latin. An oil of vitriol, the addition of lime water to port may reveal any alum in it. I think they're still talking about the drinks. I believe we're still talking about the drinks in this part. But effectively, that would be the end of our article today. An article that, quite frankly, I enjoyed very, very much, and I agree with most of it, right? And this again is the attitude that you need to have. You need to be smart and polite, right? You do need to embrace a solitary life. I'm just reading through the headers, right? Lead others by example. Follow a sound and meaningful daily routine, and keep your life in order. I'm gonna use the cellar as a euphemism for life, right? Keep your life in order. This is really what a gentleman is all about. right? It's about being a tremendous service to others in a way that will benefit you. What you don't want to do is be a gentleman to people who won't appreciate it. I've made that mistake. And people took it for granted, right? They took it for granted that that was in fact my genuine disposition, and that was in fact my nature, when nothing could be further from the truth. Self-preservation is my nature, right? And I'm a gentleman just to prevent you from attacking me, right? Because the consequences of that are violence, right? And since I'm a bachelor, I know that any violent encounter, as long as there's more than one person, I'm already outnumbered. And in a situation where I do win, then I got no one to come and rescue me from that win, right? If I get arrested or any kind of thing, I've got no one to come and rescue me from that arrest. So people may misconstrue being a gentleman as being weak, but it's only about self-preservation, right? This is going to be very important for you, especially at work, right? Especially while you're trying to get your money up, while you're trying to get your savings up. Once you've got your savings up and you've got millions and millions in the bank and you don't need that job anymore, that's a completely different conversation that we can have at another time. But while you are still building and putting things together, you're going to need to be respectful, because you want to be respected, right? And generally, that's how it works. The more respectful you are, the more respect you're going to get at work, right? The more disrespectful you are, the worse it's going to be, right? So you do need to want to maintain that. You want to adopt the the persona of a butler. Now you're not a butler right now, right? But you could be in 2 years, right? In 5 years, you could be well on your way to being a perfect gentleman. This sounds like a very long time, but if you're 30 years old and you think 35 is a long way away, it may very well be. But you're going to arrive at 35. And when you arrive at 35, you cannot start then practicing. You need to start practicing now, so that when the moment arrives, you're ready. And the moment will arrive. It always does. It always does, right? That moment that you're dreaming about is going to come. And I always tell you this. You don't have to worry about the moment of success coming. It comes. It always comes. It comes for every man. Every man. Your job is to not mess it up when you get it. Because, it's all over the world, man. People get great opportunities that they never thought they were going to get, but they dreamed about. And then when they do get it, they mess it up, right? And you don't want that to be you. You don't want that to be you. And you don't want to mess up a good opportunity just by being disrespectful and belligerent. That's not going to help you get anywhere. It's definitely, all it's going to do is just make you a target and make people attack you, right? That's not what self-preservation is about. That's not what we preach here, right? The height of excellence, strategic excellence, is not to fight and conquer in all your battles. Supreme excellence consists in preventing the enemy to attack you to begin with. Preventing the enemy from attacking you, I beg your pardon, to begin with, right? From stopping them from having a reason to attack you, and being helpful and useful and effective in all areas of work will do just that. Even as you get promoted, go ahead and clean that toilet. Go ahead and clean that toilet, because it's just going to make you more useful to the corporation and give them a more reason to pay you money. Just wash your hands and it's over, man. That's really what it is. You wash your hands, get the job done, and move on, right? Go ahead and balance those books. But before you start balancing those books, get a vasectomy, guys. I'm not going to end the video without talking about a vasectomy, because none of these things are going to help you when you have a vasectomy, right? Being a butler is gonna do you no good when you got a baby mama, right? This article tells you that you're not gonna pull this off when you got kids and a wife. You're gonna be too distracted with many things, and a vasectomy is gonna keep you looking in the right direction and doing the right thing, right? It's gonna keep you from being distracted. It's really done that for me. Like, every time I think about going to introduce myself to a counterpart, I remember I got a vasectomy. There's no point in all of this. There's really no point in me trying to coerce somebody into liking me, right? It's really the truth. There's just no point. You like me, and then what? What are we going to do? Raise kids? No, we're not. We're going to build a future? For what? What happens? We get tired of each other. We've got nothing tying us to each other. We just walk away. So why waste my time? Why waste my time? I could put my time into things that will benefit me and sustain me, right? And increase my chances of self-preservation. I'm gonna hit that 100 years, and I want you to hit that 100 years too. You're not gonna hit it with a wife, and definitely not with them kids. A healthy mind, a healthy life, and a healthy bank account is gonna do that for you, right? And treating your customers, treating your clients, treating your students, treating your employees, treating your employer as though you are their butler is the fastest way to keep you rising. It's going to get you to the top. And if it doesn't, it's going to keep you valuable right where you are. It's going to keep you paid. It's going to keep you paid. What will destroy your pay and your money is going to be not getting a vasectomy and paying to get that childbirth and those diapers and those towels that you're going to be folding and folding and folding day after day. You ain't never fold a towel like when you fold a towel when you have kids. And don't think they're not going to put you in a tutu either. You're going to be tutus for birthdays, and you're going to be Santa Claus for Christmas. You're going to have that pot belly and all in a pink transparent tutu. Tattoos, beard, all that, and a pink tutu. And you don't want to wear that tutu, man. You don't want to wear that tutu. Absolutely not. You want to stay with us on the right side of history, right? There's nowhere in history where we're going to look back at a man wearing a tutu and consider that success. Absolutely not. So get your vasectomy, protect yourself, protect your career, protect your job, protect your reputation at work, right? Be a butler, lie by omission. Bring forth the best parts of yourself. Be active. Look for things to do. Look for places where you can be helpful. Be proactive at work. You need that money, man. You really need that money. And you're going to need it for a long, long time. And you're going to need a lot of it. So humble yourself. Humble yourself to the almighty dollar, right? And serve it. Work for that dollar. Put in that effort, right? Investments and all, they are all good. All good. If you can pull that stuff off, go ahead. But until then, you're going to need to rely on your own efforts and your own skills to make money. And the more skills you have and the more effort you put in, the more money you make, right? Until such day that those investments, those so-called investments, can, double themselves and actually put money in your pocket, like cash money, I'd say just work hard, right? Don't try the funny stuff. No gimmicks. No gimmicks. This is the ancient one, the Bachelor Supreme, he who remains, the Phantom Menace, and the master of the deceptive arts. Thank you for your time and your attention. I appreciate it, and I always will. Have a nice day.